Well, the football World Cup, the FIFA World Cup might be over, but that doesn't mean football is gone from our lives. In fact, with the end of the World Cup means one thing, the resumption of the Premier League. Now, of course, other leagues haven't quite started yet because they have something called a winter break. But today is Boxing Day, 26th December, and that means the Premier League is waltzing back into our lives. As you can see, I'm very excited. I have my Chelsea jacket on, wearing my allegiances on my chest or sleeve, whatever you want to call it. Either way, it would be correct. I know Chelsea aren't playing for another couple of days, but still, I'm very, very excited. I've been longing now for Premier League football to return, and that day is upon us at last.
Absolutely. Also, one of the reasons to look forward to the Premier League, of course, is we've been treated by great action in Qatar.
Absolutely.
But having said that, there were some stars who we all love who weren't there in action in Qatar.
Exactly.
So, reason for us to look forward to the Premier League as always.
Exactly. Unfortunately, the reality with football is it's such a global sport. You'll have stars from all over the globe, but you will more often than not be missing certain players. And there are a lot of players, but I think we can look at these particular players and say, okay, these are some of the players we've been missing. Of course, you'll remember Thiago Alcantara. Unfortunate to miss out on the Spain squad, but I think that's the thing with Spain's midfield. It's just so powerful. There's so many good midfielders, and they seem so set with the likes of Gavi and Pedri.
Absolutely.
That unfortunately,
they've shown a lot of trust in the young duo, and Alcantara, yes, there were some eyebrows raised when he wasn't included in the squad by Luis Enrique. But in many ways, that call, I think, was a justified call because the performances in the midfield, of course, they went down on penalties. But having said
I don't think the midfield
they didn't have any midfield issues.
Exactly. So unfortunate for Thiago, but he will kind of be missing out on, I think, a lot of Spain squads in the future, especially considering just how good those two have been. And don't forget, they have the likes of Koke on the bench as well. So there's plenty of depth in that midfield. Not that Jurgen Klopp would have minded too much, though, considering just how intense the fixture schedule will be. He would have wanted Thiago, who, by the way, if I'm not wrong, has been struggling with injuries ever since arriving at Liverpool. So he gets some rest time. He'd be ready to go, get back in action in the league, potentially, of course, help Liverpool achieve a top 4 finish. They're not there yet at that point in time, but we'll get to the table in just a bit.
Speaking of players who'd be raring to go, would be this man,
Erling Haaland. I think he's publicly come out and admitted that he was bored during the World Cup. And I can't blame the guy. He comes to the Premier League, takes to it like a fish to water, was scoring goals for fun.
Set the Premier League alight. He's the leading goal scorer at the moment. Nobody anywhere close to him right now.
Exactly.
And as things stand, we've only had 14 game weeks. He's already crossed the 10 goal mark. He could be looking at the golden boot already, but more importantly, he could be looking at shattering the Cristiano Ronaldo, Luis Suarez record.
Exactly. He's looking to get that record for the most goals in a season, and if he continues this his prolificness, which he had in the first half of the season, I don't just think he's breaking the record, I think he's making it his own.
Absolutely. And it'll be very difficult to catch this man given the form that he has been in. We've seen his training videos as well. He looks sharp as ever. And like we said, would be one of the players raring to go right now.
And
also, they're playing Leeds, by the way.
Exactly.
Which is a team that has conceded a lot of goals. They scored a few as well. But we could be in for a goal fest. And when you talk about a goal fest, this is the man who makes it a goal fest.
Also, with fun fact with Leeds, Haaland, when he was born in England, he was born in Leeds and grew up as, in his early days, supporting Leeds United. He could very well be coming back to haunt a club who he has some interesting ties to. Let's say, I think his dad was playing for Leeds at that point in time.
Was he?
Yeah. Then later on, he had moved to City. His career ended in City, remember. You would remember, no doubt. And speaking of course, Haaland and, his Norwegian teammates, Martin Odegaard, another player who I think we would have been very blessed to see in Qatar, considering the kind of form he's been in this year for Arsenal, has been one of their key driving forces.
Not just creating goals, he's scoring goals as well before the break. Yes, he was one of those, who many of you who were or rather are playing the FPL must have him in your team.
Absolutely.
Because he put everyone in a fix because of the display that we saw in front of the goal between him and Saka. It was all Saka till one point, but then in that Arsenal midfield, you saw not just creativity but goals as well from this man.
Martin Odegaard, and don't forget, he's a very efficient free kick taker as of late.
Absolutely.
So could be very well, a threat from set plays, whether it be goals, assists. And of course, I can't not talk about this man, Mo Salah. I think, he's that one player who a lot of Liverpool fans in particular would have been wanting to see on a tournament, on a stage that big. Unfortunate for them, Egypt couldn't qualify for the World Cup this time around.
But again, a man who was rediscovering himself, he was getting into form before the break. He'd be wanting to continue that form that he managed to sort of find just before the World Cup. It's obviously very difficult when you're coming back after such a break to replicate whatever form you may be in.
Correct.
But all eyes will definitely be on him because he continues to be one of the key figures for Liverpool. And remind you, they haven't had the best of starts to the season.
It was a
So
poor
important for him to start from the word go and get Liverpool those 3 points to begin with as we resume the Premier League season.
But of course, it's not just the big players who are looking forward to. I mean, there's some interesting matches if you're thinking about it as well.
Yep.
You're starting off with a nice little London versus London, match. In fact, that'll be the first match of the Boxing Day extravaganza. It'll be
starts
Brentford,
at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. IST. That's when you can be watching the matches. Brentford and Tottenham. Now, of course, both teams have had fairly contrasting starts this season. Brentford, to be fair, their aim was never going to be top 10 or top 7. For them, second season back in the league, it's about consolidation. But they've been giant slayers. I think you would know that better than anyone.
Absolutely. That 4-0 defeat
still hurts.
That Man United had to endure early in the season. Well, of course, it's for Manchester United fans something that continues to hurt, as Shane says. But in many ways, they've been on and off this season. Brentford, Ivan Toney has been good for them. Even though he's
Speaking by the way of players who should have been in the World Cup.
Yes,
Ivan Toney.
One of them. Some betting issues with him. He broke a lot of regulations, but regardless, could be one of those again who is involved in today's match. And
100% has to be.
And will be one of the key figures for Brentford in this key encounter. By the way, interesting fact, Tottenham would be licking their lips right now because of the 15 matches on Boxing Day that they've played in the last season. They've not lost a single one.
They have a good record on Boxing Day.
In fact, they've won 12 and drawn 3 of them. So this is a fixture that historically has been good for them this day in particular. And they've got a decent record against Brentford as well.
Correct.
So Antonio Conte will be looking for all 3 points tonight.
And of course, there's quite a few players coming back into the Tottenham squad who would be fatigued from World Cup matches, but one who and I think will be the key man today, Dejan Kulusevski. Not part of the World Cup because unfortunately Sweden didn't qualify, but before the break he was one of their key driving forces.
Absolutely, because Son didn't have the best starts to the season. Again, one of those players who was again getting into form just closer to the break, but in him not finding form, let's say, it was Kulusevski who was delivering the goods for Tottenham Hotspur.
And another matches we could look forward to, there's of course Villa versus Liverpool, and the only reason I'm looking forward to Villa is because I want to see what it is that Emi Martinez will be up to. Now, although I doubt he'll start.
He I don't think will be starting because in fact I was reading about this fixture. I think he's only joining the squad on the 27th. So he's not even entered the fray as of now. So we all know, has been partying and he deserves to party. For
was a key man in Argentina winning the World Cup.
Absolutely. Many in fact arguing that he in fact should have been the player of the match in the final.
He could have, very well.
Absolutely. He did everything to get to that award.
But don't forget that last minute save before the penalty. I think it was Kolomuani.
Kolomuani. Yes, it was Kolomuani. So yes, Emi Martinez of course will be a celebrated figure at the Villa Park, but this of course will be a fixture to look forward to.
And I think Liverpool will be licking their lips at the prospect of this particular fixture. Because again, you remember before the World Cup started, Aston Villa sacked Gerrard, brought in Unai Emery. So
there's also something happening on the Philippe Coutinho front as well. Again started the season like on an okay note, but again
has really tapered off.
It's tapered off. In fact, they are planning to offload him as well in January.
That can happen. Good luck to Villa, I say. But I think this match, Liverpool clearly starting as favourites, considering again no Emi Martinez, and that Villa would be very much on. They just about started to gain. I think they had one good result. I think it was Emery's first match.
It was against United. They won 3-1.
Right.
They won 3-1.
I knew it was someone.
Leon Bailey gave the early lead. Then it was Jacob Ramsey, if I'm not wrong, who then made things worse for United. But having said that, quick update on the Liverpool squad. There will be no James Milner. There will be no Roberto Firmino as well taking part.
Kind of expected.
But having said that, Liverpool will go into this match, as Shane said, as firm favourites.
Speaking of other interesting matches, this one though, for me, a little close to call. Because West Ham this year have been really something of a yo-yo team.
The second London derby to look forward to.
Exactly, Arsenal versus West Ham. And of course, Arsenal would be considering themselves as favourites. It's a home fixture for them. They're top of the league. Everything is going their way. But West Ham, as I said, they've been that yo-yo side. They've looked up, they've looked down, and you don't know which side is going to turn up on which given day. Having said that, David Moyes is the kind of manager who loves to give it to the big sides. So
absolutely.
I'm not expecting this to be an easy game for Arsenal at all.
It won't be an easy game, but again, there is something working in Arsenal's favour. You can't say form at the moment. Yes, that was something they had prior to the break.
But
But the thing with them, of course, is if you look at Boxing Day fixtures historically, out of the last 13 seasons, 10 times the team leading or topping the chart
have
on
not
Christmas
gone on.
have gone on to win the title, and Arsenal will be looking to end their 18-year-long wait for
one
the title.
major problem for Arsenal: no Gabriel Jesus.
No Gabriel.
Remember, Jesus picked up an injury and during the World Cup.
But they know how to play without him, I would say, because not like he was doing, he was scoring the goals.
But he was actually very key to their overall build-up.
Build-up, yes. It was a new role of sorts. Yes, of course, he would have wanted to score more goals, but those goals sort of
dried up
later on. Yes, had a dream start to his career at Arsenal, but Arsenal know where to find a goal or two, because like we said earlier as well, Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, these guys have come good for Arsenal of late, and even though Gabriel Jesus will not be there, they would be hoping for these goals to come somewhere from the midfield in the absence of Gabriel Jesus.
For West Ham, by the way, the man I'm looking forward to watch more, Said Benrahma. Again, player who wasn't part of the World Cup, be very fresh, raring to go. His West Ham career in this season, again, been a little up and down, but when he's shown massively.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think for me, he's going to be the key player if West Ham are to get, whether it be a point or maybe even 3 against Arsenal, who really knows? City fans, doubters would be hoping that Arsenal can drop some points.
Because remember, Arsenal have a 5-goal lead and they play before City. So if they manage to get 3 points, that puts pressure on City, because then Arsenal will open up an 8-point lead.
At least as things stand. And speaking of other matches, very interested to watch for obvious reasons. Chelsea versus Bournemouth. Now again, this is a match that on paper screams Chelsea being favourites, but that hasn't really been the case for them this year. They've lost a lot of matches and they will be entering this particular match with a lot of key players missing. Reece James might be available because he's been training. I think they'll use him as a bench option, but who really knows? However, key players still missing. There's going to be no Wesley Fofana. There's not going to be a Ben Chilwell. There won't be Mateo Kovacic and Hakim Ziyech, both of whom are fit, but who, remember, played the third place playoff for their respective countries. Croatia versus Morocco was the third place playoff. So neither of them are going to be in the fray of things. That's been confirmed by manager Graham Potter. Bournemouth, on the other hand, they had, if I'm not wrong, sacked Scott Parker. Brought in a new manager. Things had started looking up for them. And Bournemouth, to be fair, have a history of tripping Chelsea up. I remember there was a 4-1 loss at Stamford Bridge in 2018-19. That was a horrible result. Came from out of nowhere. So this is a banana slip of a fixture if there ever was one for Chelsea, who are currently in 8th. They need to win. Simple as. Absolutely need to win. And of course, there are other matches which we can look forward to. United versus Forest. This is the same Forest team who signed, 25 players? Oof,
the team that surprised everyone with the kind of transfer activity that they had.
It was madness.
Of course, this should, again, given the fact that football returns to Old Trafford, Eric Ten Hag has been spending a lot of time with his teammates. With his players, the key players like Bruno Fernandes are back already, and Marcus Rashford's also seen training. He scored against Burnley as well.
Spare a thought for your first choice centre-back pairing, though, because it's going to be Rafael Varane, the player who lost the final, versus Lisandro Martinez.
Martinez, though, hasn't yet come back, so it could be back.
Could very well be
Harry Maguire, beg your pardon, could be back in the centre-back position.
In good news for Nottingham Forest.
In good news for Nottingham Forest, so one could say, but from a Man United standpoint, you would expect him to replicate the kind of performances we saw from Harry Maguire in the FIFA World Cup, because he played well, as he often has.
He did it in the Euros as well. It's frustrating with him.
For of course, this will be an unknown mystery as to how his career has just gone downhill in the Man United colours. But again, United will be looking for 3 points. They're in 5th place.
And they should be confident of a 3 points against this Forest side. Nothing wrong with them. But I think United are starting favourites.
And do we have more fixtures to talk about?
This one is always an interesting one. City versus Leeds. And Leeds, why I'm saying it's interesting is because Leeds so far this year have gotten 2 upset results. I think they got a win against Arsenal, and they definitely beat Chelsea. I remember that because it was Chelsea's second match of the year, and that was the end of the Tuchel era. Leeds managed to beat Chelsea 1-0. So far this year, they had a good record when it comes to beating the top sides. So they could very well spring an upset, but if Haaland gets a goal in the 3rd minute, forget about it. Then it's a goal fest.
Absolutely, and again, City will be looking for a win going into this fixture because again they are gunning for another title. Pep Guardiola does want to make it 3 titles,
and he wants that Champions League.
He wants that Champions League, of course. That's the prize he's actually chasing. But again, he would want to take a hat trick of Premier League titles any day.
And don't forget, City too will eventually be welcoming back a World Cup winner. Julian Alvarez. Not for this match.
Not right now. And of course, you know, if you just want to talk about how the City team sort of shapes up and how they've, the formation that they've gone with. Yeah, they just played with Haaland up front. But given the exploits of Julian Alvarez,
I think they'd be remiss to not
one will
start
have to wait and see if Pep Guardiola wants to go a step further. Just be a little experimental. We know he's very rigid. But what if this City side start to play Haaland and Alvarez up front?
I think Alvarez, you could play him on the left.
You could. But having said that, if those two guys start playing up front together, well,
then God help
the other teams in the Premier League.
And of course, Shivam, can we just take a look at the table or a quick look at what it looks like? So obviously, if you're looking at it, you'd see Arsenal, Man City are the teams currently in pole position. Newcastle have stunned everyone, or not, depending on the source of their money.
Yeah.
But Spurs in 4th, United currently 3 points, but crucially, with a game in hand.
Also, Arsenal, so Arsenal have played so the top 3 sides, you see, out of the 3, the top 2 have played just 14 games.
So there are a lot of fixture postponements during the Queen's death.
Yes. And Man United as well, they are 3 points adrift of Tottenham Hotspur.
But with a game in hand.
But remember, although the goal difference is a big talking point there. And again, United will have to do well from here to be able to work on that goal difference.
For that matter. I think Liverpool that way, if United drop points, will be fancying, because again, it's a goal difference of plus 11. So that's very, very good for Liverpool. Yeah. And of course, it'll be interesting to see how these other fixtures also come into play, because again, Queen's death unfortunately led to a lot of fixture postponement. So because of that, you are seeing some teams have played 14, some have played 15.
In fact, so some of the teams didn't play for 2 weeks, if I'm not wrong.
Exactly. That's why there's certain teams with 14 and certain with 15. So the teams that didn't play for 2 weeks were mostly London-based teams.
Because Arsenal didn't play, I remember.
Arsenal didn't play, Chelsea didn't play, because obviously the matches were to happen in London and everything was closed around that time. So
London back then was the hub.
Should be interesting to see what exactly happens in this table or what changes happen after today. But that's it. That's what we think are the major things to look forward to in this particular weekend game week of the Premier League. But what are you guys looking forward to the most? Well, you can let us know in the comments below. And don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap the bell icon, leave us a comment, and also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Last but not least, download the AajTak app. Thank you all on behalf of Harshit and me. Bye-bye for now.